Nicolas Maduro's last official meeting was with a Chinese delegation, and if you look at the dynamic of that dialogue, it was business as usual. They were exchanging gifts. I think Maduro handed over a horse to celebrate the Chinese New Year. They were talking about their all-weather friendship and future economic cooperation, and there was no indication that they were aware that an intervention was impending and that Maduro would be removed from power hours later. I think this was an intelligence failure on China's part, and the Venezuelan air defense network failed quite spectacularly. Venezuela reportedly operates an air defense network comprising of Chinese radars and Russian air defense systems, as well as Russian fighter planes. And the U.S. intervention completely neutralized Venezuela's air defense network so that it was unable to shoot down any aircraft that the United States used, including slow-moving, non-stealthy conventional helicopters, which normally are very vulnerable to ground-based missiles and ground-based fire. So I think the pretty spectacular failure of Venezuelan air defense systems should certainly give the leaders in Beijing pause about the effectiveness of their own air defenses against American technology and tactics.
中国希望在2027年就能够做好攻台的准备，它是不是能够如期达到它的目标？这是一回事情。
For Taiwan, it's a very different scenario in terms of what Beijing's objectives are, and their military objectives will be, and their political objectives on top of that. So I think China has a much bigger problem set than the United States did, so it's very difficult to compare the two. In this case, Taiwan will be the defender, and China will be the offensive player on the field. And that's going to be very challenging for China as well. So even if they study the lessons of the failure of Venezuelan air defense, that's not necessarily going to provide them a blueprint for how to defeat Taiwanese integrated air defenses, which are quite formidable.
The Western Hemisphere, this is where we live, and we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be a base of operation for adversaries, competitors, and rivals of the United States.
China has ambitions in Latin America and in the Global South more broadly, and it seeks to lead and be a part of the Global South, integrating its supply chains, its trading networks, its investments. President Trump's announcement that the U.S. is going to pursue a Western Hemispheric defense doctrine is threatening China to a degree, but there's limits.
Good to see you again.
I think in the big scheme of things, and particularly looking at the 2026 calendar of bilateral engagements between President Xi and President Trump, it's unlikely that this Venezuela intervention is going to materially affect the tenor and the substance of their engagement. I think China has placed a very high priority on stabilizing the U.S.-China relationship, on managing its trade disagreements, and that probably takes a much higher priority. I'm not saying there's going to be a grand bargain between the two. There isn't going to be spheres of influence in the Western Hemisphere and in the Indo-Pacific, but I think Xi Jinping has priorities, and Venezuela is not high amongst them.